I'm Liz Faublas, and this is Currents. How do the candidates rate on church-related issues? A Catholic group weighs in. Plus, the role faith is playing at the Paralympic Games. And an academy here in Brooklyn welcomes students for the first time.
Our hopes for the academy are to create a successful school, a school that offers an outstanding education, a school that offers our students a chance to increase their spiritual formation, and really just a really happy place for kids to go to school and people to work here.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Amid the fiery speeches, the passionate scripted keynote addresses, and targeted political rhetoric that has set the tone of the Democratic National Convention this week, one of the biggest sources of controversy was stirred by only a few words. On Monday, the Democratic National Committee released its 2012 party platform. Conspicuously absent from the text, the words God-given and about 3 sentences identifying Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Well, Democratic National Committee Chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who you see here, said the changes were made to maintain consistency with the personal views expressed by the president and in the Democratic Party platform in 2008. Well, after strong criticism from Republicans and the pro-Israel sect over the party's stances, Democratic officials reinserted the language back into their official platform on Wednesday evening. Now, while the decision and subsequent reversal garnered a lot of attention, both were eclipsed by President Bill Clinton's speech last night. Through rousing cheers, standing ovations, and thunderous applause, Clinton made the case that it was impossible for any president in a single term to, quote, repair all the damage that Mr. Obama found when he took office, but said he's laid the groundwork for a recovery. Clinton officially renominated the president for a second term in office, and President Obama will officially accept his party's nomination tonight. As Election Day draws near, this race is still in a statistical dead heat. Who's in the lead? Well, that depends on what poll you're looking at. Today, we're asking, how do President Obama and Governor Romney measure up when it comes to issues affecting Catholics? And how can voters use this information to make an informed decision at the polls? The Catholic Hispanic Leadership Alliance took a look at 23 key issues such as gay marriage, the contraception mandate, and immigration reform, and assigned each candidate a score, signifying how closely their policies and opinions line up with that of Catholic social teaching. The results are included in a new voter guide. Earlier, I spoke with the organization's president, Robert Aguirre, to learn more. So, Robert, you've created this document and you encourage voters to use the content as part of their decision-making before entering the voting booth in November. What specifically is in this document should pollsters expect to read?
What we have done here in this document is we've taken 23 issues that revolve around the priority issues of the United States bishops and have looked at the position of the 2 candidates and the history of the 2 presidential candidates of the major parties, and basically assess them against these 23 questions that are deemed important by our bishops. Mm-hmm. And we did that in order to gain a better understanding of how each candidate measures up against Catholic social and moral teaching.
And Robert, before we break down how the candidates fared, I want to know which issues, first of all, stood out as the most concerning to those that you polled. Was it abortion? Was it religious freedom?
Well, I can't say that any stood out more than the others. It's
Mm-hmm.
simply an assessment of 23 issues, not done by poll.
Mm-hmm.
Is simply taking 23 issues and assessing each individual candidate on their history and their position.
Okay.
So really one doesn't stand out any more than the other. They either are in line with Catholic moral and social teaching or they're not.
Okay, and let's break it down now. How do the candidates fare, beginning with President Obama?
Not too well. President Obama came in with matching only 17% of the 23 issues in terms of church position, as compared to Governor Romney, who came in at matching at 52% of the issues. Also, a fairly low score in terms of the church's position, but comparatively much different between the 2 candidates.
And the guide is intended actually to be a moral compass, so to speak, and a way to kind of keep pace with our consciousness with regard to faith and our basic rights. The candidates, as you mentioned, didn't fare as well as you expected, or were any of the results a surprise to you?
No, I can't say that they were really a surprise. These kinds of issues don't exactly sneak up on you and surprise you. They happen a little bit each day, each week, each month. So there were no great surprises on here. I think that using, as you say, the moral compass provided by Catholic teaching is a comparison that has to be made. But in the end, it's still going to rely on the hearts of people of goodwill, as the bishops state in their document, Faithful Citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
It's still going to rely on the consciences and the hearts of people of goodwill to make the final decision in the voting booth.
Robert, there is such a call for Catholics to come into the voting booths. This year it seems more than any other year in my recent memory. How important is the Catholic vote right now?
I think the Catholic vote is always important. I think it is particularly important this time. We're at an unprecedented point in our country's history, and the Wall Street Journal, even referred to it as a war that was declared by President Obama, and it was a war that certainly Catholics did not want. But it's one that we find ourselves in the midst of, and so we are obliged and obligated by our faith to respond to that, and it heightens our sense of responsibility in terms of our roles as being faithful citizens.
Robert, in the time that we have left, something really struck me while reading your guide, and I want to get your opinion on this in our last question. You say that Catholics have a responsibility to vote with an informed conscience formed by the gospel rather than from habit or tradition. Can you please explain that?
Well, I think a lot of us, all people are people of habits. We're people of traditions. We cling to the things that make us comfortable, the things that we have always done. This is a time when we really have to take stock in that and come to terms with what our real responsibilities are as Catholics and as citizens. And for those who are used to voting a certain way because of a label or a party, this is not the time to do that. It's a time for deep reflection. It's a time for real consideration and coming to terms with your conscience and coming to terms with your faith. That's going to force a lot of people to do something different that they don't traditionally do.
And Robert, really quickly, where can voters get a copy of your guide?
On the website at www.catholichispanic.org, all one word, catholichispanic.org.
All right, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate your being here with us, and hope to speak to you again very soon.
Thank you for
so much,
having me.
Robert. You're very welcome. And stay tuned, there's more currents ahead. A college fights back after their lawsuit over the contraception mandate gets tossed. We'll have that story and the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Liz Faultless. A Christian school is not going away quietly after its case against the contraception mandate was tossed. Wheaton College in Illinois is appealing a judge's dismissal of the school's lawsuit against the federal mandate. In the decision last week, the judge said that the lawsuit was premature. That came after the Obama administration modified an exemption to the mandate to include Wheaton. The controversial measure requires most private health plans, regardless of any religious objections, to pay for birth control, sterilization, and some abortion-inducing drugs. The trial of Kansas City St. Joseph Bishop Robert Finn got underway on Thursday. The trial was moved up from the original date of September 24th after a decision to allow a judge rather than a jury to decide the case. Bishop Robert Finn and the Diocese of Kansas City St. Joseph each face 2 misdemeanor counts of failing to report suspicions of child abuse. The case involves hundreds of images of pornography found on a priest's computer. Well, Wednesday marked 15 years since the death of Mother Teresa, and Rome Reports has more on her amazing life.
15 years ago, on September 5, 1997, one of the most important people of the 20th century died. Her name was Agnes Gonca Bohacu, but to the world she was simply known as Mother Teresa. She was born in Macedonia back in 1910. At the age of 18, she entered the Our Lady of Loreto convent and moved to India to work as a schoolteacher. In 1948, she felt a new calling, which led her to dedicate her life to helping the poorest of the poor in Calcutta. Shortly after, she founded the Order of the Missionaries of Charity. For 45 years, she worked tirelessly for the needy and was even awarded a Nobel Peace Prize in 1979. In India, she was given the Bharat Ratna Award, which is the country's highest recognition for humanitarian work. But the biggest recognition for Mother Teresa and the Missionaries of Charity came 7 years after her death, when John Paul II beatified her. He described her as a perfect example of God's love, since she lived her life as Jesus did, by helping the poorest of the poor.
And to Northern Ireland now, where violence this week is being linked to tensions between Protestants and Catholics. In the most recent incident, dozens of police officers were injured when protesters faced off against people marching in a Republican parade. Political leaders met in Northern Ireland following the violence. Officials say that all who attended the meeting agreed that there is no place for violence. In other news, Africa is to be called the continent of hope, the words of Pope Benedict in a letter to the Pan-African Congress for Catholic Laity. In his letter, the Pope wrote that the best traditional values of Africa are threatened by secularization. Benedict says that hope points the way to a, quote, bright horizon. The Pan-African Congress for the Laity lasts through this Sunday. A car company gives the Pope a chance to go green. Rome Reports has that story.
Benedict XVI has always expressed concern on caring for the environment. Back in 2009, he even had solar panels installed at the Vatican to help with some of its energy needs. Well, now the Pope is taking yet another step forward in going green. French car company Renault gave one of their new electric cars to the Pope as a gift. It was given to him at his summer residence of Castel Gandolfo.
We knew for some time that the Vatican and the Pope were especially keen on durable solutions for mobile technology to protect the environment.
The car, though, will not be converted into one of the famous Pope mobiles, but nonetheless it will be used by the Pope. It will be used to travel short distances within the gardens of Castel Gandolfo, and it will remain off the streets. Some changes were made especially to the model.
We made entry to the vehicle very easy, and it has a very large inside and is very bright.
But in a way, this gift is not only for Benedict XVI, since the Vatican's police will also be allowed to use the new car.
For these two cars, which are 100% electric, we use the model Kangoo Maxi ZE. We worked with our engineers in Paris to create these two models that are unique to the needs of the Vatican.
The electric car will now join the Vatican fleet of vehicles that is growing greener every year.
And stay tuned, there's more currents ahead. Coming up, the Olympics may have ended, but another group of talented athletes keeps the competitive spirit alive in London. Welcome back. July was Michael Phelps's month. The swimmer won 6 medals, 4 gold and 2 silver at the Summer Olympics in London, increasing his career total to 22. Now, although the excitement of the Summer Olympics has now passed, another set of games has taken London by storm, the Paralympics. Men and women with physical disabilities are bringing their athletic skills to international competition. Rome Reports has the story of how faith is playing a role in the games.
When it comes to sports, the Olympics don't need an introduction. But without a doubt, the Paralympic Games usually don't get as much attention. From blind athletes to amputees, this year 170 countries are represented by people with physical disabilities, all of them competing to win the gold. But few people know that faith plays a key role in modern-day Olympics. They were founded by a Jesuit-educated French aristocrat back in the 19th century.
Baron Pierre's idea of an international athletics competition was not for his own sake, but to promote the values which he saw in the ancient games: peace and understanding between nations.
To welcome both Olympics, the Constantinian Order of St. George organized a dinner in London, and to truly reflect the diversity of it, delegates and presidents from different countries were invited.
Distinguished guests, the Olympic spirit is above all a spirit of peace, symbolized in the famous Olympic truce. The Games of ancient Greece were an opportunity every 4 years to help repair a fragmented society.
Over 250 people attended the Faith and Sport Royal Gala dinner, including the President of Panama, the President of the Commonwealth of Dominica, the President of Montenegro, and the Crown Prince of Tonga. But when it comes to sports, faith, and achievement, what exactly can the Olympics teach non-athletes about life?
They can show us again in every athlete how much can be achieved in life with self-discipline, concentrated effort, and healthy competition.
The Paralympics began as a small gathering of 16 British World War II veterans back in 1948. Decades later, it has developed into what we know today. This year, the Paralympic Games kicked off on August 29th. The closing ceremony is on September 9th.
And a massive Thanksgiving for the Paralympic Games will be held in London this Saturday at St. George's Cathedral in the Archdiocese of Southwark. Stay tuned, there's more currents ahead. When we return, our first School of the Week of the new academic year. We visit a Catholic academy in Brooklyn that welcomes students for the first time on Wednesday.
The idea was to create a strong academy, an academy that had a strong enrollment so that we can, sort of guarantee our future. And obviously we want to do a good job so that we will continue to attract students from all of the communities around us, not just one parish or the other.
And finally tonight, summer vacation officially came to an end for elementary school students across the Diocese of Brooklyn on Wednesday morning. The students headed back to school on the first day of the new academic year. Here in Windsor Terrace, it also meant a fresh start as the building that formerly housed Holy Name School is now home to St. Joseph the Worker Catholic Academy. The new school is a combination of what were formerly the schools at Holy Name and Immaculate Heart of Mary parishes. The change to the academy model is one that all elementary schools in the diocese will eventually make in order to make them financially independent from parishes and allow them to thrive for years to come. We visited St. Joseph the Worker Academy on Wednesday. They are our School of the Week.
Our hopes for the Academy are to create a successful school, a school that offers an outstanding education, a school that offers our students a chance to increase their spiritual formation, and really just a really happy place for kids to go to school and people to work here.
My hopes for the Academy is to strengthen Catholic education in the Diocese of Brooklyn and Queens. We have had dwindling numbers with the student population, and to try to save Catholic education and show the strong points, they're combining schools and forming academies. With the new academies and the new push for technology in the classroom and the collaboration between all the educators, between the schools and the diocese, that we'll be able to reach these goals.
Working in a Catholic school and being a practicing Catholic myself, I plan to incorporate the Catholic religion into every lesson that I do, and to teach the Catholic religion to the students so they could become good practicing Catholics also.
With so many schools closing and so many public schools not doing well, I think this is a great opportunity for the parents as well to have their children here in a safe, encouraging, happy environment.
I know the adjustment was difficult, the merger of the two schools and the changing identities, and that had its challenges, but I think the parents have been really supportive. I think they understand the need for a strong academy to guarantee their children a future in Catholic education.
I really expected that there would be a drop-off, and the quite opposite happened. Enrollment went up, parent participation is at an all-new high. The parents I met this morning all friendly, outgoing. They want to see this model succeed because they believe in Catholic education. Most likely, they had a Catholic education and they see the value in that education.
The idea was to create a strong academy, an academy that had a strong enrollment so that we can, sort of guarantee our future. And obviously we want to do a good job so that we will continue to attract students from all of the communities around this, not just one parish or the other.
This transition regarding Catholic education is going to keep it alive. It's going to show people that, hey, we're still here. We're still doing what we did before in just a new format. We're still doing the academics, but we're also showing our faith to others. We're reaching out to the community and living an example of Christ in our lives.
And be sure to visit our website, currentsny.net, to see all our schools of the week. That is all for tonight. Coming up on Friday, the Democratic National Convention comes to an end, and we'll get a roundup of all that happened this week. We'll also go into the deep with Bishop DiMarzio ahead of the 11th anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks. Until then, I'm Liz Faublas. We leave you tonight with scenes from Castel Gandolfo as Pope Benedict receives an electric car.